Got some pearl white in the gun. This is one of our top water baits. This is the ones we're airbrushing. We got our purple. We got our aluminum colored back. The lure was already white. I'm going to take some pearl white and I'm going to blend it up under its belly. Give its belly a little more splash. I'm going to give his belly a good coat of pearl white. That'll make it sparkle and shimmer in the water. And I'm going to blend it up the side and get rid of a little bit of that purple that we put on the side, and that's going to give it an iridescent look because this is a transparent paint. So that purple's going to show through. I don't know if you can see that good in the camera, but you're starting to get a little purple hue like a blueback heron or a shad. It's just got a purple hue around the back. The back, of course, is a little darker silver color, that wicked aluminum we put on there. So you're starting to see a real shad appear. So I'm gonna do both of those like that, clean out the gun, and then we'll dry them up a little bit and do some more. All right, so we got our airbrushing stuff out here, and we're gonna get our colors out. And these are some of our tools we use to airbrush or spray paint stuff. We got these little hoops. They're sewing hoops, and you put your mesh material in it. That's like a bigger scale type of stuff. And here's one that's got a little smaller scale like material in it. You can buy these at Michael's or a sewing store or something. And here's just some of the mesh cloth. You can wrap it around a lure. We got a comb. A comb is good for doing brim patterns. It's just a comb. My wife, she got mad when I stole it, but you can hold it over the lure and paint through it, and it'll give that bull brim lines on the lure real easy. We got some Mylar templates that we made out of some old, it's like clear Mylar material, and you either razor knife or Dremel out little patterns you want. And this is a real kind of classic, like a tiger stripe pattern or something. Different little cutouts. You can just lay this over the lure and paint through it, and it puts a cool effect. All different ones. This is like the top off of a lure box. You can just Dremel them out, or you can cut them out with a razor knife. And I've got a bigger tool. This has got a bigger mesh. This is like a metal screen. I don't know what it's used for, but you can get it at a Home Depot store or whatever. And I made a little wooden frame so you can lay a lot of lures, lay the lures behind it. You can do several lures at one time and get a good scale pattern on all of them. Flip them over and do it again on the other side. So you can make these little tools. This is just a wooden frame with this little metal like scale mesh pattern. Puts a good scale pattern on a lure. A lot of guys do this to get their scale pattern, and we'll use these when we do our paint job. So we got all our lures good and dry. We got them all coated with the blend of paints we wanted. We got one set up, one of the top water baits set up in our little holder here. It's just a solder and iron tool. Sell at Radio Shack, but it holds lures good. And we got our crankbait that we've got all painted up, blended colors and all that. We're going to put a scale pattern on them. And if you're doing it with spray paint, this is a little easier. This is some mesh, some of that wedding veil material or whatever you want to call it. We're going to wrap it around the bait. The paint's good and dry. Just kind of wrap it around, pull it all snug, and take some little clips like this and just kind of wad it up and pull it tight and clip it all the way around the lure till we get the mesh clipped around there. So we're going to clip it all the way around before we paint it and put a scale pattern on it with spray paint. And then I'll show you the technique we use when we airbrush them too, but it's pretty easy to do. You just pull it all kind of snug to where you got a good scale pattern that's going to show through when you paint it. You put your clips on it basically like that to hold it. The scale pattern's really just going to be across this angle, the side of his back and this side. So you'll hold your spray paint up here and just kind of hit the back of the lure straight on. It won't get any on the sides, and when you pull it off, you can hit it again and put a little black line down his back, and you'll just have a scale pattern that runs on the top edge of his back. Now if you wanted to do like a full body scale pattern, you'd use a contrasting color. Take the little tool we showed you earlier, hold it over this like this, and you can scale pattern the whole side of the bait. Or even better yet, this big piece that we use has got a little bigger scale pattern. You could hold it over it, set it in there, and just hit it one or two licks, and get a scale pattern over the whole lure. Now if you use dark colors, it's going to be big squares and you're not going to see all your detail of your blended paints. So you want to use like a pearl white would put a faint scale pattern over anything. So if you got blended colors or a lure that's painted, you want to put a scale pattern, you can lay this or even use your little tools like this and use a pearl white or a contrasting color that's just real slight contrast, and when you turn the lure in light, you'll see the scale pattern showing through. So we'll get set up to paint all these, which we got this one ready. We got it wrapped. We'll put a couple more clips on it. We'll step outside and we'll take some black and put a black scale pattern around his back on the sides, and it'll be solid in the back, and you'll see a big difference in the way the lure looks. And then when you clear it all, it'll really jump out, and you'll really be able to see the details even with spray paint. So I stepped outside and I took some of our black spray enamel, and I took the lure and I just held it up, and I held it a good distance away, and I painted straight down his back and just turned the lure just a little bit, just to get a little bit on the sides showing through with some black spray paint. That's all I did, really hitting the back mainly, but keeping it a good distance away. Don't get it on your hand and stuff, and just kind of turn the lure just enough to get a little bit on the side of the top of the back, just enough to get it right there. And don't move the scale pattern, let it the mesh material, let it dry real good, and then when we peel it off, you'll see it's got good contrast. We can take it back out there and we can hold it a distance away and just kind of fill in the back, unless you want a scale pattern all the way around the back. So we got that one done with the spray paint. It's wrapped up. We're going to let him dry, and we're going to go ahead and do with the airbrush. I got some black loaded in the airbrush, and we're going to go ahead and do a scale pattern on our other shad baits, our topwater baits, with the airbrush, just to see how you do it both ways. Spray paint and airbrush are both the same. We're going to hold it on the lure. All the paint that's on there is good and dry, and we're going to put a little blend across his back, just enough to give it a little faint scale pattern. We're not painting it dark. And you want to be careful not to move your material that you're spraying through. We don't want to move it until we get it painted. So you'll end up with a scale pattern like that. Now we're going to turn the lure over. We're going to spin him around and do the other side. The same way we just did that side. This little holder works pretty good. We're just going to lay it up there like that, take our paint, our airbrush, and do the same thing we just did. And then we'll pull it off. And once you get the scale pattern you want on both sides of the lure, you can see it. We got it on both sides. We're going to blend the back. Just straight on the back, really ain't got much paint once we airbrushed it. So we're going to just kind of put a black line down his back. And when you clear this, and we're going to mix a little glitter in the clear, you'll see a huge difference in the way the lure looks cleared versus not cleared. It'll really jump and pop, and you'll see the details. So we got a scale pattern on the side, on both sides. We got shad colors blended in, and then we'll do shad dots and eyes. We'll do both our topwater baits, and we already got our one spray painted. We'll let it dry real good before we peel it off, and then we'll go on to the next step. Our paint's had plenty of time to dry. We did the black scale pattern. We're going to take it off. It's plenty dry. It shouldn't be no drama with it. So we're going to peel the paint off and check it out. It sticks on there pretty good with enamel paint, but you can see a scale pattern on the lure. It looks good. Now I don't have any gold spray paint, but I have got a little bit of gold loaded in the airbrush, so we're going to cheat. We're going to use a little bit of gold, and we're just going to put a little bit of gold mist on this, on the top water baits real quick. So got a little gold loaded. This is just pearl gold, opaque, transparent wicked color pearl gold. I'm just going to put a little bit of gold on this lure just to give them a little bit of contrast, a little shad look. And it's transparent, so you don't really get an overwhelming amount of gold. It's kind of hard to see with the camera, but it gives it a good little hue. So we're going to do that. We're going to do our top water baits. They're going to get a little bit of gold on them, just kind of dust it on to give them some good shimmer in the light. And then we're just about ready for clear. And we're just about ready for eyeballs and shad dots, and then we'll be ready to clear them and fish with them. So we'll just put a little bit of gold on both our top water baits. We got it on our crankbait already. If you ever look at a shad real detailed, he's got a little bit of gold, he's got a little bit of purple, kind of a purple pink color, a little iridescent. I like to put a little bit of gold on them, and the gold's real transparent, so you don't see it much, but you see it at certain angles. And it really makes them pop. When you clear them, the lures they take on a new dimension when you start clearing them. We're going to use a real thick 2-part epoxy clear, makes them tough, and makes them stand out. But if we would have had gold spray paint, you could have done the same thing. You just hold it a long ways away and just kind of dust it on. But I didn't have any more gold spray paint, so we just used the airbrush to get the gold on there. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll go on to our next detailed paint.